The first time the human arrived on the station, nothing unusual was expected to happen. The station was called Silex 9, a floating structure far from any planet. It was built for one purpose only, to house the Valyri, a telepathic alien species who could not live among loud-minded races. Sound did not hurt them. Light did not hurt them, but thoughts, strong thoughts, were dangerous. That was why the station was always quiet. No music, no arguments, no crowded halls. Every species allowed there had been tested, trained, and mentally filtered. Humans were not supposed to be there. But the galaxy was changing. The Galactic Alliance had decided that humans must be studied closely. Humans were new, unpredictable, and powerful in ways no one fully understood. They were not telepathic. They had no psychic gifts, yet every telepath who came near a human reported the same thing. Humans were loud. So a small human team was sent to Silex 9 under heavy restrictions. They would stay only 3 cycles. No weapons, no emotional stimulation, no direct contact with Valyri citizens. The human soldier named Ethan Hale did not know any of this. He was chosen because he was calm, disciplined, and mentally stable, at least by human standards. He had survived wars, long isolation, and loss. His mind was steady, his thoughts ordered. The Alliance believed that if any human could be near telepaths safely, it was him. When Ethan stepped onto the station, wearing a simple gray uniform, the air itself seemed to tighten. Far below, in a quiet chamber filled with soft light, a Valyri woman suddenly froze. Her name was Salith. She had been meditating, her thoughts drifting gently like water. The Valyri lived most of their lives in shared mental silence, touching minds only when needed. To them, peace was emptiness. Then something struck her mind. Not like a blade, not like fire, like a storm. Salith gasped sharply, her body jerking as if she had been pulled from sleep, her hands pressed against the floor, her breathing uneven. The silence shattered. Thoughts, raw, fast, emotional, crashed into her senses. They were not hers. They were not Valyri. They were human. Images flooded her mind, metal corridors, a blue sky she had never seen, a memory of laughter, a sharp ache of loneliness, duty, fear held tightly under control. She cried out, and other Valyri nearby turned in alarm. Salith! One of them reached for her but stopped short, afraid of entering her mental space. He's here, Salith whispered. Who? The others asked. The human. Above them. Ethan paused as the station doors sealed behind him. He felt strange. Not sick, not afraid, just a sudden pressure, like being watched. He frowned slightly, but kept walking. Salith was rushed to a recovery chamber, her mind trembling. The elders gathered quickly. Humans were supposed to be kept far from Valyri minds. This one had not even reached the inner ring of the station yet, and already she could hear him. Not words, not speech. Thoughts, constant, clear, unfiltered. Most species thought in soft pulses or images. Humans thought in full sentences, layered emotions, memories stacked on memories. It was overwhelming. Yet something was wrong. Salith was not in pain. She should have been. Instead, her heart was racing for another reason. The human's thoughts were not aggressive. They were not cruel. There was no hunger for dominance, no mental sharp edges. His mind was loud, yes, but also warm. She closed her eyes, trying to block him. She couldn't. Every time his thoughts drifted, wondering where he was, hoping he would not offend anyone, remembering old friends, her senses reacted. And when, for just a moment, he wondered who lives here, her breath caught sharply, because the thought brushed against her, directly. Ethan stopped walking. Did you feel that? One of the scientists asked quietly. No, Ethan said. But something feels off. Security escorts exchanged uneasy glances. Deep inside the station, Salith's hands trembled. He was not trying to reach her. That was the terrifying part. He was not aware of her at all. And yet, she could feel when his attention moved, when he was curious, when he felt alone. When he thought of the unknown alien minds around him, a sharp sensation ran through her body, like a breath held too long. The elders made a decision quickly. The human must be isolated. But before orders could be given, something else happened. Ethan passed near the central observation window. Through layers of shielding, Salith saw him for the first time. A human male. Tall, solid, his movements controlled, but not stiff, his face calm, eyes alert. Not beautiful by Valyri standards, but strong, real. And then his thoughts shifted, just slightly. Someone's watching. Salith gasped. Her knees nearly gave out as his awareness brushed her like a wave. For a single heartbeat, their minds touched. Ethan felt it too. He staggered half a step, gripping the railing. What the hell was that? He muttered. Alarms did not sound. No systems failed. But in that instant, something ancient and impossible happened. A telepath felt a non-telepath, and a human felt a mind that was not his own. The connection snapped almost immediately, but the damage, or miracle, was done. Salith's breathing slowed. Her fear faded. In its place came something unfamiliar. Curiosity. The elders stared at her in disbelief. "You stabilized," one whispered. "Yes," Salith said softly, "because he noticed me." That made no sense. Telepaths were harmed when noticed by loud minds. But she felt centered. Ethan was escorted to his quarters, confused and unsettled. He sat on the edge of his bed, rubbing his temples. "I am just tired," he told himself. Yet his thoughts kept drifting back to that moment, the strange sense of presence, the feeling that someone had reacted to him not physically, but mentally. Unaware of the consequences, he wondered who she was. Far away, Salith inhaled sharply. Her body responded instantly. The elders watched in stunned silence. "He thought of you," one said. "Yes," Salith replied, her voice barely steady, "and my mind responded." For the first time in Valyri history, a telepath was not overwhelmed by a human mind. She was affected by it, drawn to it. And as Ethan lay back, staring at the ceiling, thinking of the quiet alien station and the unseen presence he could not explain, Salith realized something that made her chest tighten. As long as he remained on the station, she would never truly be alone again. The next cycle on Silex 9 began with tension that could not be measured by instruments. Ethan woke early, long before his assigned schedule. The station lights were dim, set to a constant calm glow meant to soothe telepathic minds. He sat up slowly, listening to the silence. No engines, no distant voices, just the soft hum of life support. He did not feel afraid. He felt watched, not in a threatening way. More like awareness, like standing near someone without seeing them. He rubbed his face and exhaled. "Get it together?" he murmured. But his thoughts refused to settle. Every time he tried to focus on routine tasks, breathing, posture, mental drills, his mind drifted back to the strange moment near the observation window. The sensation had been brief, but it left a mark. It felt like someone had reacted to him, as if his presence mattered in a way he did not understand. He wondered who lived on this station. What kind of beings needed so much quiet? Far below, Salith stiffened. She had been standing perfectly still in the inner garden, surrounded by pale crystal plants that responded gently to emotional states. The moment Ethan's thoughts drifted back to the station's inhabitants, her breath caught. The connection was weaker than before, but clearer. He was thinking calmly, no fear, no aggression. Just curiosity and concern. The sensation washed through her like warm light. The crystal plants around her shimmered faintly, responding to the shift in her emotions. Other Valyri noticed immediately. "She's reacting again," one whispered. Salith steadied herself, placing a hand against the smooth wall. She did not collapse this time. She did not gasp loudly. She simply closed her eyes and let the sensation pass through her. The elders were watching closely now. "This is not overload," Elder Thesrin said slowly. "This is resonance." They had no word for what was happening, so they used the closest concept they knew. Resonance meant harmony, two signals aligning instead of clashing. But that should not be possible. Human minds were chaotic storms. Valyri minds were still lakes. When storms touched lakes, destruction followed. Except now, the lake was not breaking. It was rippling. Salith opened her eyes. "He's awake," she said softly. "How do you know?" another elder asked. "Because his thoughts are active, focused."
He's trying to control them.
That surprised them. Humans were not trained in mental discipline beyond basic emotional regulation, and yet this one was trying without knowing why. Ethan sat cross-legged on his bed, eyes closed, breathing slowly. He had learned long ago how to quiet his mind in dangerous situations. Not empty it, but guide it, shape it. He did not know someone was listening. As his thoughts slowed, Salith felt the pressure ease. The noise softened into something almost gentle. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from understanding. "He's adjusting," she said. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. "That makes him dangerous," one said. "No," Salith replied quietly. "That makes him aware." The Alliance Command Council was informed within the hour. Reports were sent, marked urgent. A human presence was actively affecting a Valyri telepath, but not negatively. The response was cautious. Ethan was ordered to remain confined to the outer habitation ring. No movement without escort. No proximity to inner Valyri zones. He accepted the orders without complaint, but the sense of being watched only grew stronger. Later that cycle, a liaison was assigned to him. Not physically close. Not yet. Salith stood behind a one-way barrier, watching Ethan through a transparent panel as he reviewed data on a console. He looked tired, but calm. There was a quiet strength in his posture that made her chest tighten in a way she did not understand. She reached out carefully with her mind. Just a thread. Just enough to sense. The moment her awareness brushed his thoughts, he paused. His fingers stopped moving. He frowned slightly. "Okay," he said softly to himself. "That's not normal." His thoughts shifted, not panicked, but curious. Someone's there. Salith inhaled sharply, then forced herself to remain steady. She pulled back slightly, testing the boundary. Ethan stood up slowly and turned toward the panel, though he could not see her clearly through the light distortion. "I don't know who you are," he said quietly, feeling foolish, speaking to empty air. "But if you're listening, I'm not here to hurt anyone." The words struck Salith deeply. Most species did not think about harm unless they intended it. Humans, she was learning, thought about it constantly, because they feared causing it. A pulse of emotion escaped her mind. Not a message, not words, a feeling. Ethan stiffened. He gave a small, tired smile. "Yeah, we're bad at quiet." For a moment, neither spoke. Then his thoughts drifted, unguarded. She looks fragile, but not weak. Salith's breath caught. Ethan noticed instantly. "Sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't mean—" "It is all right," she interrupted, steadying herself. "Your thoughts are honest. That makes them powerful." He studied her carefully now. "Does it hurt?" She considered the question. It did, at first. Now, it feels like standing near a fire that does not burn. That image stayed with him. After the meeting, when Ethan returned to his quarters, he lay awake for a long time. He thought about her calm voice, her steady eyes, the way she had not flinched when his mind brushed hers. He wondered what her life was like in constant silence. Far away, Salith sat alone, hands resting on her knees. Each time his thoughts returned to her body responded, not with shock, but with awareness, like a gentle pull. And for the first time in her long life, silence felt incomplete, because now, somewhere on the station, a human mind was thinking of her, and she did not want it to stop. The crisis began without warning. One moment, Silex, 9 was calm and quiet, its systems running in perfect balance. The next, the station lights flickered. A low vibration passed through the walls. Subtle, but wrong. Ethan felt it immediately. He sat up from his chair, training instincts sharp. He did not reach for a weapon, there were none allowed, but his body was already prepared. "Report," he said to the empty room, knowing station systems would be listening. No answer came. Instead, a strange pressure built inside his head. Not pain, not noise, urgency. Far inside the Valyri sector, Salith staggered. She had been walking through a corridor when the mental silence shattered, not from Ethan, but from everywhere else. Valyri minds flared in sudden confusion. Fear rippled through the shared mental field like cracks in glass. Something was wrong. Then she felt it. A sharp emptiness. The station's psychic dampeners were failing. For the Valyri, those systems were life support. Elder Thesrin's voice echoed urgently through the telepathic network. "All Valyri, retreat to protected chambers. External interference detected." Saelith did not move, because beneath the fear and noise, she felt something else. Ethan. His thoughts were focused, controlled, cutting through the chaos like a steady signal. Without meaning to, he became a fixed point in her mind. She turned toward him. Ethan stood in the corridor as emergency lights activated. Red glows replaced the soft, calm lighting. Doors sealed in sections. A distant alarm began to sound, low, steady, and dangerous. "This is not a drill," the station AI announced at last. "Unknown disruption affecting cognitive shielding. All personnel remain in place." Ethan clenched his jaw. Cognitive shielding meant telepath protection. "Damn it," he muttered, his thoughts sharpened. "They're in danger," Salith gasped softly. That thought struck her clearly, stronger than any before. Not fear for himself, for them. She reached out without thinking. This time, she did not just sense him, she connected. Ethan froze. The corridor vanished. For a heartbeat, his world was light and emotion. Calm layered over fear, awareness beyond sight. He felt her presence fully for the first time, not as pressure, but as understanding. He dropped to one knee, steadying himself. "Salith," he said aloud, shocked that the name came so easily. "Yes," she replied, not with words, but with certainty. The connection should have overwhelmed both of them. It did not. Instead, something unexpected happened. Ethan's disciplined thoughts, years of training, focus under fire, emotional control, formed structure around the chaos. The noise that tore through the station softened near him. Salith felt it instantly. Her panic faded. Her thoughts aligned with his steady rhythm, like waves settling under a guiding force. "You're stabilizing me," she whispered. He did not fully understand how, but he felt her steadiness feed back into him as well. His senses sharpened. His fear became purpose. "What's happening?" he asked quietly. "External attack," she answered through the bond.
"Not physical, psychic."
Ethan's eyes hardened.
Someone's trying to shut you down.
Yes. They believe disabling Valyri minds will collapse alliance coordination. Ethan pushed himself to his feet. "Then we stop them." Alarms intensified. Throughout the station, Valyri collapsed under the mental strain. Their shared network, once a source of strength, became a channel for disruption. Enemy interference flooded their minds, designed to overload and silence them. But around Ethan, the effect weakened. He did not block the attack. He grounded it. Salith felt something close to awe. Human minds were loud, but structured, built to handle conflict, stress, and contradiction. Where Valeri minds sought peace, human minds survived chaos. Together, they formed balance. Elder Thezrin sensed the shift. There, he said softly. A stable node. He focused on the anomaly, a human, linked to Salith. This is impossible, another elder whispered.
No, Thezrin replied. This is evolution.
Salith tightened the connection, carefully, deliberately. She did not overwhelm Ethan with images or emotion. She let him guide the flow. Can you reach the others? Ethan asked. Yes, she replied. Through me. Then do it, he said without hesitation. Ethan, if we do this fully, the strain, I can handle it, he said simply. And he meant it. She opened herself. The Valeri network surged toward her, and through her, to him. Ethan's breath came slow and controlled as hundreds of faint impressions brushed his mind. Not voices, not words. Presence. Fear. Hope. He anchored himself, thoughts clear and deliberate. Stay calm. The enemy signal struck again. This time it shattered against something solid. Human resolve. The psychic interference wavered. Station sensors detected the shift. Cognitive shielding stabilizing, the AI announced, uncertain. Unknown factor detected. Enemy forces adjusted tactics, increasing intensity. Ethan felt pressure build, sweat forming on his brow. His jaw clenched as memories surfaced. Battlefields. Loss. Long nights of survival. He did not push them away. He used them. Salith felt his memories and did not recoil. She understood. Humans carried pain like armor. Your mind, she whispered in wonder. It is loud, because it must be.
Yeah, he replied.
Quiet never kept us alive. Together they pushed back. Salith guided Valeri minds into alignment with Ethan's focus. One by one, telepaths stabilized. The mental noise receded. Fear turned into clarity. The enemy attack faltered, then stopped. Lights across Silex 9 returned to normal. Alarms fell silent. Ethan collapsed to one knee again, breathing hard. Salith rushed to him physically this time, steadying his arm. Her touch was light, grounding. You did it, she said. We did, he corrected. Around them, the station breathed again. The elders arrived shortly after, stunned by the scene before them. A human and a Valeri standing together at the center of a psychic event that should not have been survivable. You acted without authorization, one elder said carefully. Yes, Ethan replied, and your people are alive. Silence followed. Thezrin stepped forward, eyes thoughtful. You saved them, he said, both of you. Salith looked at Ethan, emotion glowing softly beneath her skin. The human mind, she said to the elders, is not a threat. It is a bridge. Later, as Ethan rested in a medical chamber, Salith sat beside him. No barriers, no shields, just presence. You could have been lost, she said quietly. He gave a tired smile. So could you. She studied him. You did not fear the connection. I did, he admitted. I just didn't let it stop me. Her expression softened. That, she said, is why it worked. As Ethan drifted into exhausted sleep, his thoughts slowed naturally, but they did not disappear. They lingered on her. Salith felt it and smiled gently. The galaxy had tried to break them apart. Instead, it had shown them something new, a human mind and a telepathic soul, stronger together than either alone. And somewhere far away, unseen forces began to take notice. The calm after the crisis did not last long. Silex 9 returned to quiet operation, but the silence felt different now. It was no longer empty. It was watchful. Ethan recovered quickly, at least physically. Human bodies were used to strain. His mind, however, felt changed, not damaged, expanded, as if a door had been opened and carefully left unlocked. He sat near the observation window again, hands resting on his knees, breathing slow. He was not meditating. He was thinking. And Salith felt every shift. She stood in the inner ring chamber, surrounded by elders and Alliance observers. Her posture was calm, but her thoughts were steady only because Ethan's were. The council chamber was full for the first time in many cycles. Valyri elders floated slightly above the floor on soft platforms. Representatives of other species watched through projection fields. Human officials remained physically distant, tense, and alert. At the center of all attention was an invisible thing: the bond. What occurred during the attack cannot be allowed to happen again, an Alliance official said. A single human became a focal point for an entire telepathic species. That is a security risk. Ethan's thoughts sharpened slightly. Salith inhaled. He did not become a weapon, she said clearly. He became support. That is your interpretation, the official replied.
It is the truth, Salith said.
Without him, many of us would have collapsed. Elder Thesrin drifted forward. The council must decide whether humans are to be restricted further or removed entirely. The word removed echoed through the chamber. Ethan felt it like a weight in his chest. Salith felt it like a tearing sensation. He stood abruptly in his section of the chamber, ignoring the warning signals from nearby monitors. If this is about safety, Ethan said calmly, then talk to me, not about me. There was a brief pause. Humans were not supposed to speak in this council, but no one stopped him. I didn't choose this, he continued. I didn't even know it was possible. But when your people were in danger, I did what any soldier would do. I held the line. Salith's thoughts wrapped gently around his, steadying him. I'm not here to control anyone, Ethan said. And I'm not your enemy. If my presence puts people at risk, then say it to my face. Don't decide in silence. The chamber was very quiet. Thesrin studied him carefully. You speak without fear. Ethan met the elder's gaze. I'm afraid all the time. I just don't let it decide for me. That thought resonated deeply with the Valyri. Fear guided most species away from danger. Humans had learned to walk through it. Another elder spoke. Your mind anchored ours during the attack. But what if an enemy learns to use you instead? Salith stepped forward before Ethan could answer. They already tried, she said, and failed. All eyes turned to her. The enemy attack was designed to collapse us by exploiting our shared mental field, she continued. Ethan did not amplify it. He absorbed the chaos and gave it structure. That cannot be forced. It cannot be copied. Why? An observer asked. Salith's voice softened. Because it comes from choice. She looked at Ethan. He chose to stand with us. A ripple of thought passed through the Valyri network. Agreement. Uncertainty. Curiosity. The council withdrew to deliberate. Ethan was escorted back to his quarters under heavier watch than before. Not as a prisoner, but not as a guest either. Salith was not allowed to accompany him. The separation was immediate. Ethan felt it the moment the door sealed. The station felt colder, louder. His thoughts wandered, unfocused. Salith staggered slightly in the corridor as the distance increased. She steadied herself against the wall, surprised by the weakness. They had not realized how connected they had become. Hours passed. Ethan tried to distract himself with reports, training routines, anything. But his thoughts kept drifting.
Is she all right? Salith's breath caught sharply.
She closed her eyes, forcing calm. The connection was still there. Thin, stretched, but present. Yes, she's alive, she whispered to herself. Focused, watching, thinking. Ethan felt relief he did not understand. Then the warning came, not from the station, from beyond it. Long-range sensors detected multiple unidentified ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Silex.
9.
Not alliance, not traitors. Hostile. Red alerts flashed across command channels. The enemy had learned. They had seen the data, and they were coming for the human. Ethan was pulled from his quarters by security teams moving fast now, no longer careful.
Where are we going?
He asked. Safe zone, a human officer replied. You're the priority target. Ethan frowned. Then Salith. She's being moved separately. That felt wrong, very wrong. Salith felt the shift instantly. External threat. Focused intent. The enemy minds were sharp, narrow, and aggressive. They were not attacking the station blindly. They were aiming. At Ethan. No, she whispered. She turned, ignoring protocol, and ran toward the central command nexus. Valyri guards tried to stop her, but she pushed past them, her mental presence flaring. I must reach him, she said. Now. It's too dangerous, one elder warned. So is doing nothing, she replied. The enemy ships opened fire. Not with physical weapons. With psychic disruptors. The first wave slammed into the station's defenses. Shields held, but the mental impact rippled inward. Valyri across the station cried out as their shared field trembled. Ethan felt it too. A sudden pressure, like gravity pulling inward. He closed his eyes. Focus. He reached out, not blindly, but deliberately. Salith felt him immediately, stronger than before. I'm here, he thought. Relief surged through her. I know, she replied, her mind steadying as she locked onto his presence. They are coming for you. Then we don't let them separate us, he answered. She hesitated. Ethan, if we link fully again, the council? Forget the council, he said. People are in danger. That settled it. She opened the connection. Fully. The station seemed to breathe with them. The Valyri network surged. But this time, it did not overwhelm Ethan. He guided it, shaped it, focused it outward. Enemy psychic probes slammed into a wall of human will reinforced by telepathic precision. The attackers recoiled in shock. They had expected chaos. They found resistance. Target is unstable. An enemy commander transmitted. Human mind not isolating. Telepathic species reinforcing him. Their next move was desperate. They tried to sever the bond. The attack struck like a blade aimed directly between Ethan and Salith. Pain flared. Ethan gritted his teeth, memories flashing. Loss, survival, promises kept under fire. He did not pull away. Salith screamed, not in sound, but in thought, and wrapped her presence around his, refusing to let go.
You are not alone, she sent.
Neither are you, he replied. The blade shattered. Enemy ships began to withdraw, their systems disrupted by feedback they could not control. Silence followed. Real silence. The station lights stabilized. Emergency signals faded. Ethan sagged against the wall, breathing hard. Salith collapsed to her knees wherever she was, hands pressed to the floor. They were alive, together. This time, there was no debate. The council reconvened within minutes. Elder Thesrin spoke first. The enemy has identified the bond between human and Valyri as a strategic threat, he said. Which means it is one, or a liability, an observer argued weakly. Thesrin shook his head. A liability does not drive enemies away. Salith was brought before the council, exhausted but unbroken. So is your decision, Thesrin asked, to stand with him still? She did not hesitate. Yes. Ethan was brought in next, bruised, tired, eyes steady. And yours? The elder asked. Ethan met Salith's gaze. I'm not leaving her, he said simply. The chamber fell silent. Then Thesrin inclined his head. Then the galaxy must learn to live with what you are. Not a weapon, not a danger, but something new. And far beyond Silex, 9. Word spread quickly. The humans were no longer just loud minds. They were anchors, and that terrified a lot of powerful beings. The station was quiet again, but nothing would ever feel the same. Weeks had passed since the enemy attack, yet the memory lingered in every corridor, every chamber. For most humans, Silex 9 remained a research station, a floating hub in the void. For the Valyri, it was a sanctuary. But for Ethan and Salith, it had become something entirely different, a place where minds could meet across boundaries no one had thought possible. Ethan walked slowly through the outer ring, hands brushing lightly over the smooth walls. His body had recovered from the physical strain of the attack, but his thoughts remained alert, circling back again and again to her. Not with fear, not with confusion, but with a quiet, persistent awareness that had become impossible to ignore. Salith, meanwhile, drifted along the inner ring, moving with her usual grace. Yet every pulse of the station's lights reminded her of him. Every thought he allowed to drift into her mind resonated like a faint bell. She had learned to anticipate him, to feel his focus, his curiosity, his fleeting moments of reflection. It was exhausting, yes, but also exhilarating. The council had finally made its decision. Humans were allowed on the station under careful supervision, but the true message was not written in rules or schedules. It was written in action. In Ethan and Salith standing together during the crisis, a bond no protocol could sever. The galaxy would have to accept that human minds were not merely unpredictable. They were extraordinary, capable of stabilizing even the most sensitive telepaths. Yet despite official recognition, challenges remained. Other species within the Alliance eyed Ethan cautiously. Humans were still new to interstellar politics. Their unpredictability worried many. Some whispered that giving him freedom to interact with Valyri minds was a gamble the galaxy could not afford. Ethan ignored them. He sat in the observation chamber, looking out at the stars stretching endlessly into the void. Thoughts of Salith drifted to him naturally. She was there, somewhere inside the station, yet through the bond they had formed, she was also here. He could sense her presence faintly, like a pulse at the edge of his mind. Not intrusive, not overwhelming. Comforting. Salith felt the same. She was conducting routine checks on the station's psychic dampeners, but her awareness kept returning to him. To the steady rhythm of his mind, the surprising calm he brought even in chaos. The council called it unprecedented. The scientists called it fascinating. But for her, it had become personal. "You think too much," she whispered to herself, smiling softly. "I can't help it," Ethan replied, almost as if he had heard her aloud, though no sound had passed through the air. The bond between them had evolved. It was no longer accidental or reactive. It was deliberate, conscious. They could reach each other with intent now, exchange thoughts without words, understand moods without speaking. Yet it had limits. Neither wanted to abuse it. Neither wanted it to feel unnatural. And then the day came when the council issued a new mission. The Alliance wanted Silex 9 reinforced. Enemy forces had been detected moving along nearby sectors, probing for weaknesses in telepathic defenses. Humans would be included in the operation, but not as soldiers. Observers, anchors. A new category had been created: human stabilizer. Ethan accepted without hesitation. Salith would accompany him, of course. The thought of going without her had become unthinkable, and for the first time, they were allowed to act openly, without shielding or hidden protocols. The mission was simple in theory. Move to a forward station, help maintain telepathic integrity, report any unusual activity. Simple, but dangerous. The enemy had learned. They would test the human mind again. They would try to exploit the bond. But Ethan and Salith were ready. The transport shuttle hummed softly as it detached from Silex 9, drifting into the cold black of space. Ethan sat near the console, fingers lightly touching the controls, but his attention was elsewhere. Humans were adaptable, but the kind of mental warfare the galaxy could wage against a telepath was not something they trained for. Yet with Saleth, he realized, it could be possible to turn the tables. The next few cycles passed in tense preparation. Shields were tested, psychic dampeners calibrated, and the pair trained together in mental exercises designed to strengthen the connection. Every time Ethan's thoughts focused on Saleth, the Valyri network around them stabilized further. Every time she shared a pulse of calm, his mind grew sharper, clearer. They became not just a human and a telepath standing together. They became a single point of stability in the chaos of the galaxy. The test came sooner than expected. Enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light near the forward station, far fewer than before, but faster, more precise. The attack was designed to be surgical, aimed at destabilizing the station's psychic defenses. Ethan and Saleth moved together seamlessly, his mind anchored hers. Hers guided the station's telepaths. The enemy had learned nothing from before. They assumed humans were chaotic, unpredictable, fragile. They were wrong. Signals surged, psychic waves attempted to tear the Valyri apart. Every pulse was met with calm from Ethan, focused and steady. Saleth amplified the bond, directing the network. And for the first time, they noticed something remarkable. It was not just defense. It was creation. Their combined presence allowed the station's systems to operate beyond normal capacity. Psychic energy that had been merely sustaining life now became a shield, a guiding pulse that extended beyond the station itself. Enemy probes faltered. Their systems were disrupted. They withdrew, confused, unprepared for a human mind that was no longer isolated, but fully integrated with telepathic guidance. When the threat passed, silence returned. But it was a different silence now. No one doubted the bond's power. No one questioned its necessity. Ethan and Saleth stayed close, breathing in sync, aware of each other's presence without needing words. The station felt alive under their connection, not just surviving, but thriving. Later, as they walked through the observation deck, looking out at the endless stars, Ethan spoke softly. "I never imagined something like this," he said. Saleth tilted her head. "Like what?" "Feeling this. Knowing someone is always there, even when I can't see them. Knowing they care." Her luminescence shifted, brightening subtly. "I have always been aware of others, but I never expected to feel this. With you, it is different." They stopped, standing together, not touching, but entirely present. "You will not leave?" he asked. "Neither will you," she replied. He smiled faintly. "Then we are
Unstoppable? Together," she said. For the first time since he had arrived on Silex,
9. Ethan allowed himself to relax completely. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, unpredictable. But here, beside Saleth, he felt steady, strong, anchored. And she felt the same. Through him, she experienced human courage and clarity. Through her, he experienced connection and understanding beyond anything he had known. The galaxy may never fully understand them. Other species may continue to doubt the humans, continue to fear what they could not control. But Ethan and Saleth no longer worried about that, because they had each other, and in a silent, vast universe, that was enough. As the stars stretched endlessly into the void outside, their minds touched again briefly, not by accident, not by force, but by choice. And in that moment, each knew the truth. Some bonds were stronger than fear, stronger than distance, stronger than the galaxy itself. They were no longer just human and telepath. They were one point of certainty in a universe that demanded uncertainty. And together, they would face whatever came next, always on each other's mind, always side by side. He felt her even before she entered the shuttle cabin. A subtle warmth, a quiet pulse that made him aware she had taken a seat across from him. "You are quiet," she observed, eyes meeting his. "I'm thinking," he said simply. "About me?" she asked, lips curving in a faint smile. "About how dangerous it is to be without you," he replied. She laughed softly. I was thinking the same about you. For the first time, there was no barrier between them. Not physical, not mental. The bond that had begun as a chaotic accident was now mutual, intentional. And as the stars slid past the shuttle's windows, they allowed themselves a rare moment of calm, of trust. The forward station was smaller than Silex 9, built for temporary deployments and rapid response. As they approached, sensors detected no immediate threats, but the usual tension remained. Saelith anchored herself to Ethan, and for the first time, he fully realized how much she had come to mean, not as a telepathic asset, not as a guide, but as a presence he could not imagine being without. Their first night on the station passed in relative quiet. Monitoring systems hummed softly, lights adjusted to the Valyri preference, and the two of them stayed close, aware of each other's presence through the subtle connection they now shared. During the following cycle, an unexpected signal appeared. Not an attack, not a probe, but a transmission intended for communication. The message was alien, unfamiliar, and urgent. Someone had noticed the human-Valyri bond and wanted to negotiate, or perhaps manipulate. Ethan leaned over the console, studying the data. Saelith hovered beside him, her eyes narrowing. "They know," she said softly.
They know what? He asked. That the bond exists.
"That it can stabilize us." Ethan frowned. "Then they might try to break it." She shook her head slightly. "Or use it." The thought made him tense. Warmth spread through his chest, sudden and unexpected. Not pleasure. Not pain. Recognition. He pressed a hand against the glass, heart pounding. "That's..."
You, he whispered. Security sensors spiked briefly, then stabilized.
The elders watched in stunned silence. "They're communicating," one said. "No." Thezrin corrected. "They're acknowledging." Saelith stepped back, breathing hard. She had not meant to send anything. It had simply happened. Yet she felt no weakness, no mental strain, only clarity. The decision was made that could not be undone. Saelith would become the humans' official mental liaison, not because she was the strongest, but because she was the only one not breaking. When Ethan was informed, he listened carefully, jaw tight. "So I'm dangerous," he said flatly. "No," the Alliance representative replied. "You are unknown." Ethan exhaled. "That's worse." Later, Saelith was allowed to meet him in person, for the first time without barriers. The room was large, open, and heavily shielded. Safety measures layered upon safety measures. Ethan stood near the center, hands at his sides, deliberately relaxed. Saelith entered slowly. She was shorter than him, her movements smooth and careful. Her skin held a faint luminescence, shifting gently with her emotions. Large, dark eyes focused on him, not with fear, but intense attention. The moment she stepped into the room, Ethan felt it. The pressure, the presence. But it was no longer overwhelming. It was focused. "Hello," he said quietly. Saelith stopped a few steps away.
"Hello, Ethan Hale." Hearing his name from her voice sent a strange thrill through him.
"You can hear me even when I don't speak," he said. "Yes," she replied honestly, "but not always clearly. Only when you think, strongly."
"I'll try not to do that."
She tilted her head slightly. "You cannot help it. Humans are always thinking.